When thinking about the effects of migration on families and sending communities and development outcomes, what first comes to mind is often remittances. And indeed, in the MIGNEX analysis, like much of the research that comes before us, we find that families or households that are receiving remittances are often much better off than those that do not.
But our findings suggest that it's not always this straightforward. Sometimes we find that receiving remittances has no effects on the households that receive them, whereas having a migrant in the family does. For instance, children in families with a migrant abroad were less likely to be enrolled in secondary school. Receiving remittances, on the other hand, made no difference to school enrollment. This showed us that it's not just the money the migrants send that affects the family. Having a migrant in the family means a family member is absent, and one adult less can make a difference, especially if they are the parent of the child. In the case of school enrollment, a parent being away could mean less oversight with children, potentially less likely to attend school. It could also mean that young children have learned from others who have migrated that getting more education doesn't usually pay off abroad.
And migration doesn't just affect children in migrant households.
Migrants don't live in a vacuum. There are households around them who don't have migrants, but they're watchful. They watch their neighbors' children go to better schools. They watch a steady stream of flashy consumer items coming into their houses.
So how might migration taking place in these communities affect watchful neighbors who don't have migrants themselves?
We find that the larger the number of migrant households in an area, the better the outcomes in those areas in terms of participation with the community and in terms of education for girls. Now, one of the reasons why this is happening, we think, is that the act of migration or the act of watching somebody migrate has a transformative effect on people. It changes their values, it changes their perceptions of the world around them. Migration has led to changing gender norms and making them more progressive.
Migration and its influences on perceptions, norms, and values go a long way in explaining these results on school enrollment. Academics call these ideas and behaviors that flow from migrants to sending communities social remittances. Our research shows that these social remittances that families receive can be just as or more important than the financial remittances that they receive. So when considering how to promote the development effects of migration, we need to be just as cognizant of these less visible effects with regard to social remittances as we are to the usual suspects of financial remittances.